I'm still basking in it. So I'm going to call this one a Light in the Vanity. We're going to talk about that intriguing book of Ecclesiastes. And it's attributed to many folks by Solomon. I agree with that. But some will differ. The book doesn't actually say it was written by Solomon, but many scholars agree that all evidence points to that case. So I'll let the scripture speak to that case here. Ecclesiastes 1:1, the words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. That fits Solomon. And Ecclesiastes 1:12, I, the preacher, was king over Israel in Jerusalem. So that word preacher means teacher or assembler. You got the word down here, Koheleth, and that's what the Hebrews call the book, right? Koheleth. It means exactly that, to gather, assemble. In the word Ecclesiastes, you might also take the word ecclesia, right, and associate that, the assembling, and he is the assembler. The book of Ecclesiastes describes his search for meaning to life. And I think it's very pertinent today, especially with the so-called millennial generation. And I don't mean to generalize, because it's the generation isn't an age group. It's the generation that's alive today. Describing his search, he said, and I gave my heart to seek and search out by wisdom concerning all things that are done under heaven. That's a term he uses a lot. The sore travail has God given to the sons of man to be exercised therewith. I know the book of Ecclesiastes sounds like it's going to bring you down. But don't worry, there's some light in that vanity. He says, what profit has a man in all his labor which he's taking under the sun? There's another phrase he uses a lot, under the sun. That just means the days and the happenings of this physical life on the planet. It also, to me, suggests, almost from a more worldly point of view, that he's looking at things. And his message, as I said, may seem to be rather negative. Vanity is the major theme in the book. It's used some 35 times in 29 verses. So lots of times we think of the word vanity, we think of a vanity. We think of somebody who is vain. Most time people who read the book of Ecclesiastes think it means just utter meaninglessness. And that can be how it's used many times. But I've taken this to understand that the best understanding of that would be that it's impossible to understand the repetitiveness of life. You cleaned the house yesterday. Today it's a mess again. You got to clean it again, and guess what? It's going to be a mess tomorrow, right? You wash the dishes. They're dirty again. Make your bed. Why? I'm just going to mess it up again tomorrow. I cut the grass. It grows. I got to cut it again. I'm hungry. I eat. Then I'm hungry again. It's a never-ending cycle that amounts to little in the end. There's no permanence, no real achievement. It's a temporary, vicious cycle of repetitiveness. And it can make people ask, why? Why? I know I've asked that. If you're honest, I think you've asked it too. But he mentions such words as joy, enjoy, enjoyment, rejoice, joyfully. In fact, the book of Ecclesiastes, I think, tells us some good counsel on how to get the most out of life, to find joy in a life that's full of vanity. As I said, the millennial generation doesn't see the point of living life. Why? What? Get a job and then work, and then for what? I'll just, take the government handout. Why? I don't see the point. That's the vanity that Solomon's explaining, the toil of living life under the sun. And it appears very futile to us, men and women. But Solomon tells us that the gift of God to those who fear him is the joy that allows us to have an enjoyment in this life of vanity. And it's a gift from God. It truly is. To find such joy, we first have to face the reality of the vanity of life. From the preacher's experience, the vanity of pleasure, he says, I said in my heart, go to now, I will prove thee with mirth, therefore enjoy pleasure, and behold, this also is vanity. Ecclesiastes 2:11, then I looked on all the works that my hands had wrought and all the labor that I had labored to do, and behold, all was vanity and vexation of spirit. There was no profit under the sun. Why am I doing all this? I was going through my notes, and some of my nieces were over, and I was like, it's meaningless. It's so meaningless. I had Leah queued up to cry for it. Oh, why? Why? But that's how you feel at times. Ecclesiastes 2:22, for what has man of all his labor and all the vexation of his heart, wherein he has labored under the sun? For all his days are sorrow and travail. His travail is grief. Yea, his heart is taking not rest in the night. This also is vanity. He's tossing and turning on his bed. Why? It's just repetitive. It means nothing. Ecclesiastes 4:4. Again, I considered all travail and every right work, that for this a man is envied of his neighbor. This also is vanity and vexation of spirit. Your neighbor got a better job. He does the same thing, toils day and night, and it's meaningless without the joy that God provides. My font's changed, by the way. They're different. Not only a vanity of labor and industry, but the vanity of human wisdom. He says, I communed with mine own heart, saying, lo, I am come to great estate and have gotten more wisdom than all they that have been before me in Jerusalem. Another sign that this is Solomon, right? Yea, my heart had great experience of wisdom and knowledge, and I gave my heart to know wisdom and to know madness and folly. I perceive that this also is vexation of spirit, for in much wisdom is much grief, and he that is increasing knowledge is increasing sorrow. You see that also in the doctrinal sense in the churches, right? Folks press on for more knowledge, and they want to know every jot and tittle of every little thing. They want to understand all prophecies and all knowledge, but they don't focus on the weightier things, love without which it's nothing. It's vanity. Verse 15, then I said in my heart, as it happens to the fool, so it happens even to me. And why was I then more wise? I said in my heart, this also is vanity. What good did my wisdom get me? I end up in the same place as everyone else. Vanity of vanities. Verse 17. Therefore I hated life, because the work that is wrought under the sun is grievous to me. For all this is vanity and vexation of spirit. Have you ever felt that way? I know I have sometimes in the past, before the Lord blessed me with his gift. The vanity of life, vexation. Man, why am I going through all this? some of the things we think about. Here's the vanity of leaving an inheritance. Yea, I hated all my labor which I had taken under the sun, because I should leave it to the man that shall be after me. He who dies with most toys doesn't win. He leaves his toys to the next person. And whoso knows whether he shall be a wise man or a fool? Yet shall he have rule over all my labor, wherein I have labored, and where I've showed myself wise under the sun. This also is vanity. Therefore I went about to cause my heart to despair of all the labor which I took under the sun. For there is a man whose labor is in wisdom and in knowledge and in equity. Yet to a man that has not labored therein shall he leave it for his portion. This also is vanity and a great evil. Build your bigger barns in your storehouse. On that same vein, here he talks about the vanity of acquiring riches over family. Then I returned and I saw vanity under the sun. Ecclesiastes 4:7. Yet there is one alone, and there is not a second. Yea, he has neither child nor brother. Yet there is no end of all his labor, neither is his eye satisfied with riches, neither saith he, for whom do I labor, and bereave my soul of good? This also is vanity, yea, a sore travail. He murmurs and complains a lot in wisdom, but he comes to conclusions too. He said in verse 16 of chapter 4, there is no end of all the people, even all that have been before them. They also that come after them shall not rejoice in him. Surely this also is vanity and vexation of spirit. I think another version may give you a little more light in this. The New Living Translation says, endless crowds stand around him, but then another generation grows up and rejects him too. So it's all meaningless, like chasing the wind. He's talking about basically political popularity, right? A young ruler comes up. He's the popular favorite. The present government's never so good. They're always grievous compared to the next one up line. And the preacher here puts himself in the position of a spectator. And he marks how many people flock around the aspiring young leader. Yet it wasn't lasting and it wasn't permanent, despite his cleverness, his wisdom, and the favorability that he has. He knows that a later generation will forget all his benefits and all that he's done. Oh, that I were made a judge in the land, said Absalom. 2 Samuel 15:4. Oh, that thou wert, said the people, who had yet soon had enough of him. Yeah, they wanted him, and then they rejected him. Remember Joseph in Egypt, when another king arose who knew him not, in Exodus 1:8. This experience leads to the same result. It's all vanity. Why are we going through all this? You elect the president, they do this, and then the next one undoes that or does this, right? Ecclesiastes 5:7, for in the multitude of dreams and many words there are also diverse vanities, but fear you God. Talk is cheap. Daydreams, other useless activities. Fear God instead. That's what he's saying here. Fear God instead. That's the beginning of wisdom. He talks about the vanity of loving abundance. Ecclesiastes 5:10 and 11, he that is loving silver shall not be satisfied with silver, nor he that is loving abundance with increase. This also is vanity. When goods increase, they're increased that eat them. And what good is there, the owners thereof, saving the beholding of them with their eyes? Now you see it, now you don't. It's gone. Verse 12, the sleep of a laboring man is sweet, whether he eats little or much. But the abundance of the rich will not suffer him or allow him to sleep. There is a sore evil which I have seen under the sun, namely riches kept for the owners thereof to their hurt. But those riches perish by evil travail, and he begets a son, and there's nothing in his hand. He risks his money on other investments that turn sour, everything's lost, and he has nothing to pass on to his children, is what it's saying there. That's a serious problem, and it's vanity. Ecclesiastes 6:2, a man to whom God has given riches, wealth, and honor, so that he wants nothing for his soul of all that he desires, yet God is giving him not power to eat thereof, but a stranger eats it. This is vanity, and it's an evil disease. You can see how deep the sorrow, the word travail, right? They use that for like a woman giving birth, right? He is wrenching his soul over all of this. Here he talks about the vanity of wealth without the gift of God to enjoy it. I'll read you another translation here. God gives some people great wealth and honor, everything they could ever want, but then he doesn't give them the chance to enjoy these things. They die, and someone else, even a stranger, ends up enjoying their wealth. This is meaningless, a sickening tragedy. I had in my notes there Jeremiah 9:23-24 as well. If you want to put that in there, I'll read it here. Thus saith the Lord, let not the wise man glory in his wisdom, neither let the mighty man glory in his might. Let not the rich man glory in his riches, but let him that is glory in this, that he is understanding and knowing me, that I am the Lord, which is exercising loving kindness, judgment, righteousness in the earth. For in these things I delight, saith the Lord. Common themes throughout the book. The vanity of wandering desire. Better is the sight of the eyes than the wandering of the desire. This is also vanity and vexation of spirit, right? Enjoy what you have rather than desiring that which you don't. Again, dreaming about nice things is meaningless. It's chasing the wind. It's okay to have ambitions, but you got to, as Tim pointed out, you got to enjoy and be thankful for the things you have. There's the vanity of foolish laughter. For as the crackling of thorns under a pot, so is the laughter of a fool. This also is vanity. We talk about someone who doesn't believe in God as being a fool. But do you ever think that when you put other things in your life ahead of him, that you are being the fool? We always think it's the atheist, right, who doesn't believe God. Well, we show we don't believe when we act contrary to those things. So we have to be mindful of these things. He talks about the vanity of injustice of this life. He went over so many things. I'm only bringing out a few of the things he talks about. The vanity of injustice. There is a vanity which is done upon the earth, that there be just men unto whom it happens according to the work of the wicked. Again, there is wicked men whom it happens according to the work of the righteous. I said this is vanity, right? Good people are treated like they were wicked. Wicked people are treated like they're good. It's meaningless. The good are, spoken evil of, and the evil are spoken well of. Don't worry, he's bringing us down, but he'll lift us up later. Truly, the light is sweet and a pleasant thing for the eyes to behold the sun. But if a man live many years and rejoice in them all, yet let him remember the days of darkness, for they shall be many. All that is coming is vanity. If you live to be very old, rejoice in every day that you have life. But remember, there's going to be dark days. And everything to come is just as meaningless as everything that has happened already without that gift from God. There's the vanity of childhood and youth. Therefore, remove sorrow from thy heart and put away evil from the flesh, for childhood and youth are vanity. You try and maintain your youthful vigor and your health. That's good. But remember, that's going to go too. It's temporary. It's meaningless. It's vanity. And these are the words that the Lord have wanted us to understand, because there's going to be some great wisdom that comes from these things. Prior to describing his search for meaning, what his search for meaning was, all is vanity. As we read at the beginning of messages, he says, Ecclesiastes 1:2, vanity of vanities, thus saith the preacher, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. All right, this is the greatest vanity. I've seen all the works that are done under the sun, and behold, all is vanity and vexation of spirit. Yet, after going through all these things and realizing and falling himself into great despair and despondency, he would yet have us know how to find true joy in the vanity of this life. He continues in Ecclesiastes 2:10, he says, "Whatsoever mine eyes desired, I kept not from them. I withheld not my heart from any joy, for my heart rejoiced in all my labor. And this was my portion, all of my labor." You know what? If you hate your job, that's because you're missing the reward. The reward's not the paycheck. The reward is in the doing the labor, having the joy. What was Adam created for? To work in the garden. Work. Acronym for you. Worship our righteous King. Whatever you do, do all to the Lord, right? Do it with all your might, all your strength. Joy in your labor, not just your job, the labors that you have around your home, the labors you do for each other. Enjoy it. That's our lot, because everything else is going to go, and we're going to go too. Just like the fading tabernacle. Ours faded rather quickly. So some of the preacher's observations, nothing's better than to enjoy the simple things in what you do. There's nothing better for a man that he should eat and drink and that he should make his soul enjoy good in his labor. This also I saw was from the hand of God. For who can eat and who else can hasten hereunto more than I? Because he was the preacher. He was the king of Israel. The word nothing in there is actually not in there, but inserted by the translator. The word better is in there, tov in the Hebrew, tob. But they insert that other word in there because they always appear together and it doesn't change the reading, just FYI. But the ability to enjoy what you have does come from God. Solomon is telling us that within man himself, there's nothing that can make him any better than the next in the ability to deserve or find joy in eating or drinking or any of the vanity that's under the sun. In order to do so, to find joy in those things, it has to be a gift given from God. And apart from him, there's only vanity. The vanity of gathering and collecting things that then get left behind when you're gone. The wise preacher decides that it's better than to enjoy food and drink and to find satisfaction in work. He realizes these pleasures are given him by God himself. And he declares, who can do anything apart from him? This is where it comes from. If you get nothing else from this message, take away this key point. Life under the sun is repetitive vanity. And only those who fear the Lord does he give the wisdom to actually find joy and pleasure in all of this vanity that occurs under the sun. Remember, Adam was created to till the garden. And he had a helpmeet with him too. These are the things that we find our joy. And he's going to talk about that too. God gives wisdom, knowledge, and joy to the man who is good in his sight. Ecclesiastes 2:26, for God is giving to a man that is good in his sight wisdom and knowledge and joy. But to the sinner he gives travail, to gather, to heap up, that he may give to him that is good before God. This also is vanity and vexation of spirit. So you can see all the times he's been talking about vanity, it was talking about as the sinner. But that God is giving what is good to the person who loves him and fears him. If a sinner becomes, wealthy, he's not going to take it with him. No treasure in heaven for him. He's banking on the temporal things rather than the eternal things. Okay. He has made everything beautiful in his time. Also, he has set the world in their heart. That word is olam, that you can also translate as forever or eternity, right? So you would read this, He's made everything beautiful in his time. He also set eternity in their hearts so that no man can find out the work that God has made from the beginning to the end. So it's not only a desire for eternity, but he's saying that I am eternal. You can seek out all you want, but you're only going to know what I let you know. It's impossible for man to find out all of God's works, all his actions from eternity. Many will strive to do so. That also would be vanity because you can't do it. Men may bicker and fight over why God does or does not do this or that or the other thing, but in reality, there's many things that man cannot know in this life. The believing response to this should be to throw up one's hands in faith and in prayer, not in despair. And they should go about life, we should go about life, having a good time in the joy of the Lord for what he gives us. This faith also is from God. All knowledge, all joy comes from him. And we have to start with the God who rules all things, the one who makes all things beautiful in its time. And he's going to do the same with us. He's already started with all of you. We should enjoy the good in our labor. As I said, as Solomon said, it's a gift from God. Verse 13, and then verse 22. Also that every man should eat and drink and enjoy the good of all his labor. It is the gift of God. But we think about what we're going to do with all that. Work is something you do till you can get to your life. That's not true. You're missing the joy of the Lord. Wherefore I perceive that there's nothing better than that a man should rejoice in his own works, for that's his portion. For who shall bring him to see what shall be after him? You don't know what's coming. You don't know what'll be after you. There's one who does. Let's trust him in all those things. Let's cast all our worries down by the riverside. And let's rejoice in him. Rejoice in all that he gives us. Tim, your message on thankfulness, I'm like, I should have brought this up before yours because then you would have just nailed the point with the thankfulness. And you did nail it. If you're not thankful for it, he might take it away anyway. You could be thankful and he still might take it away. But the Lord giveth, the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. If your focus is on him and you're trusting him. This is our heritage, a gift from God. Behold, that which I have seen, it is good and comely for one to eat and to drink and to enjoy all the good of his labor that he's taking under the sun all the days of his life, which God is giving him, for it's his portion. Every man also to whom God has given riches and wealth and has given him power to eat thereof and to take his portion and to rejoice in his labor, this is the gift of God. For he shall not much remember the days of his life, because God is answering him in the joy of his heart. You won't be despaired of all those things like the world is, like the sinner is. And we get ourselves caught up in those things. That's why we have to keep our focus on him. Enjoy your work and accept your lot in life. This is a gift from God. He will keep you busy enjoying life so you won't have time to brood over the past. Part of the fruit of the Spirit is joy. And sometimes, oftentimes, you see God's people with a long face. And it's not always because something tragic has happened. I mean, we have those times when we're grieving or there's time for sorrow. But our norm should be the joy, especially the joy. I mean, you think about Paul and Silas hanging in prison, just being beaten for the word of God, hanging in that dingy, smelly dungeon, hurting, sore, and they're singing hymns. They're singing hymns in their joy, counting them it wonderful that they were counted worthy to suffer for his sake. Fruit of the Spirit includes joy. Be a fruit inspector in yourself. Don't go looking at everybody else. That's the log in the eye thing. Look at yourself first and then help your brother or your sister. Proverbs 11:28, he that is trusting in his riches shall fall, but the righteous shall flourish as a branch. You know, in Mark, he taught his disciples that it's hard for the people who trust in riches to enter into the kingdom of heaven. He says, as a matter of fact, it's impossible unless God grants it so. We also read in 1 Timothy, charge them that are rich in this world that they be not high-minded, nor trust in uncertain riches, but in the living God who gives us richly all things to enjoy. Reminds me again of these great feasts. Deuteronomy 12:7 says, then you shall eat before the Lord your God, and you shall rejoice in all that you have put your hand unto, you and your households, wherein the Lord God has blessed thee. Solomon just kind of repeating what the Lord taught him through the feasts. Deuteronomy 12:18, but you must eat them before the Lord thy God in the place the Lord God shall choose, you and your son and your daughter, your manservant, your maidservant, the Levite that is within your gates, and you shall rejoice before the Lord your God in all that you have been putting your hands to. Simple. If you trust him, because then all those worries in your life aren't going to drag you down. But we have to trust him. In the days of prosperity, be joyful. In the day of adversity, contemplate things. Think. Consider. God has also set the one over against the other to the end that man should find nothing after him. In other words, remember that nothing is certain in this life. Best laid plans of mice and men could come to naught. Rejoice in what he gives you now. Be thankful for what he's given you now. And if in his wisdom he takes away something that you have or someone that you have, understand and rejoice in what you do still have. And that will carry you through the darker times. He will carry you through the darker times. Thus he commands us to enjoy the fruit of our labors. Ecclesiastes 8:15, then I commended mirth, because a man has no better thing under the sun than to eat and to drink and to be merry. For that shall abide with him of his labor all the days of his life, which God is giving him under the sun. Isaiah 49:4, then I have said, I have labored in vain, I've spent my strength for naught and in vain, yet surely my judgment is with the Lord and my work with my God. Whenever you think those things, understand and point yourself back to him. You will experience some happiness along with all the hard work God gives you under the sun. And it'll carry you through those valleys of despair. But remember, when you're riding high on the mountains, that means there's a valley on the other side. Don't let it break you. Trust in the Lord, and he will lift you up. Don't let the vanity of life's repetitiveness, the doldrums, or whatever you want to call them, drive away the joy that we're supposed to live with under the sun by the wisdom that God has given us. We may seek and strive to know the plans and ways of God. We may seek to understand why the world is like it is. And we may seek to fight to change the crooked ways and stand up for injustice. But we can't expect to know everything, because that kind of struggle is uselessness and vanity as well. And you're missing the joy that's set before you. Solomon says, Ecclesiastes 8:16 through 17, when I applied my heart to know wisdom and to see the business that is done upon the earth, for also there is that neither day nor night is seeing sleep with his eyes, then I beheld all the work of God, that a man cannot find out, the work that is done under the sun. Because though a man labor to seek it out, yet he shall not find it. Yea, further, though a wise man thinks to know it, yet he shall be not able to find it. Again, it's a gift of God to you because he shed his love upon you and you place your faith in him. You can struggle for knowledge all you want, and without the love of the Lord, it's going to be nothing. It's going to be futile to you. So again, his conclusion is, go your way. Eat your bread with joy. Drink your wine with a merry heart. For God is now accepting your works because you're doing them well and you're doing them with him in mind. Let your garments always be white and let your head lack no ointment. It's okay to wear nice clothes and splash of cologne. That's what he's saying there, right? But don't overdo it. All things in moderation, right? Told you I'd talk about husbands and wives. We'll let Solomon talk about it. Live joyfully with the wife whom you love. Live joyfully with the wife whom you love all the days of your life of your vanity. Because why? Because there's joy in that takes you away from that darkness and that vanity. To all the days which he has given you under the sun, all the days of your vanity, for that is your portion in this life, and in your labor which you take under the sun. So, husbands, wives, if you are married, love and be thankful for your spouse. Treat them well. They are your portion. They are your reward. People spend life sometimes just chasing dreams so that they can be together. They come together so they can go through all this to be together again at the end. You can't do it that way because you don't know what tomorrow will bring. You got to stop and smell the roses, so to speak, right? Enjoy your spouse while you can. They are a gift from God. That's your reward for all your earthly toil. And it'll help take you through all the meaninglessness of life. Enjoying your labor, enjoying your family. These things are important. Enjoy your youth. Remember I said youth could be vanity? Well, it can be. It just depends on how you spend it. Ecclesiastes 11:9, rejoice, O young man and young woman, in your youth, and let your heart cheer you in the days of your youth, and walk in the ways of your heart and in the sight of your eyes. But know that for all these things, God will bring you into judgment. So if you walk with that wisdom of the Lord, you can continue to rejoice and enjoy all these things. Be careful. It's wonderful to be young. Enjoy every minute of it, because when it goes away, you don't get it back. Do everything you want to do, but to take it all in. But remember, you have to give an account to God for everything you do. So choose wisely and walk carefully with the Lord, and don't be out of step with him. Therefore, remove sorrow from your heart and put away evil from your flesh, for childhood and youth are vanity. Now, it tells you how to enjoy it. It's vanity unless you remove the sorrow and put away evil from you. Remember your Creator in all the days of your youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when you shall say, I have no pleasure in them. Enjoy him now. Hey, I want to live life. I don't want to be like my parents. I want to just be careful. You are not promised tomorrow. And you will have to give account for every idle word and everything that you've done. But if you walk circumspectly, thinking of the Lord, with the joy of the Lord in your heart, bearing fruit to him, you can have that joy now and in the life to come. Jesus said, I came to give them life, and life more abundant, in this life and in the life to come. And it's so true. Solomon's writing to pass judgment on man's misguided endeavors at attempting to master life. Guess what? You can't do it. He is the master of life. He is the master of life. Solomon points out life's mysteries and limits, seeking to remove the false hopes and illusions and replace them with confidence based on the joy of the Lord's gift alone. It's brilliant. He was a man of wisdom. And if you read it one way, it can be like, whoa, this guy's off the rails. But if you can read it with understanding, you see. That's why some people say that Solomon, wrote this after he had repented of all the bad things he did. I don't know that. Our scriptures don't tell us that, so I'm not going to jump there. But since I do believe this is from Solomon, it's at least the Spirit of the Lord telling him what to write, whether it applied to him personally or not at the time. Everything goes on the same because everything is outside of our control. Unbelievers don't accept this fact, but faithful believers who have acquired wisdom do know it's true. He's given us all a set number of days under the sun. That's a hot sun for during this feast. But we're to work hard and have joy in what we have. I see so many people have life banging them and just beating them down because they're trying to get past it to that next high mountain. You got to have joy in the valleys. And I would tend to, if I was a betting man, I would bet you that the Lord is teaching you something during your time in those valleys. And you have to go through it. Nobody can help you up out of it, right? It's like a parent. We always want to help our children, but there's a time when you got to step back and let them experience that and what comes with it, the consequences of their actions, right? So that they can come to understand. We all want to spare our children the pain of what we had to go through. But it's like that story about the man who cut the butterfly out of the cocoon before it was time, right? Brian had referenced that recently. That when you cut that caterpillar out, that butterfly before its wings have fully formed, it can't fly. But through the struggle of life, through the struggle to break through, it comes out a new creature, a new creation. It'll never walk like a caterpillar, eat like a caterpillar, talk like a caterpillar may talk. It's now a butterfly, a beautiful butterfly, and it's going to fly. And sometimes we all have to struggle through that. Parents, your children will have to do that. And as they grow, those of you with the little ones, as they grow, you're going to give them increasing accountability and responsibility. And these are good things to teach them under the sun. And when we're grown, sometimes we still need those lessons. And the Lord will take us through those valleys. He ends his message with these final words. He says, let us hear the whole conclusion of the matter. And I know you all know these verses from Ecclesiastes because it talks about keeping commandments. Fear God. That's before the commandments, by the way. And it doesn't just mean revere him, as some people would have you have. And then they'll quote the perfect love, cast out fear. Yeah, but you still got to have a fear. I had love for my father, but if he was angry, yeah, or if I did something wrong, I feared him and what he might do. Fear God and keep his commandments. Doesn't get you anything special. It's your whole duty. It's your duty. For God's going to bring every work into judgment, every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil, and not by your standard or my standard. Isaiah says his ways are higher than our ways by immense amounts. His thoughts are not our thoughts. But we can know the thoughts on many things through the scripture. Be pleasing children to him, right? That's what he wants. Be pleasing in his sight. Love one another. Care for one another. If you can, help somebody through the valley. Share their joy on the mountain. Sometimes you have to step back and let the Lord take them through that. So they're not just trusting in you and your help, they're trusting in the Lord. Remember the words of our Savior. He said, the thief comes not but for to steal, to kill, and destroy. I am come that they might have life and they might have it more abundantly. And then in Luke 18:29, he said to them, verily I say unto you that no man has left house, nor parents, nor brethren, nor wife, nor children for the kingdom of God's sake, who shall not receive manifold more in this present time and in the world to come life everlasting. Don't let the thief steal your joy in the Lord. The abundance of life that the Lord has given you. Don't let the enemy take it away. The world, the flesh, and the devil. Keep yourself unspotted from the world. Keep your flesh clean. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. Yeah, he would be stronger than you if you were alone, but you're not. So my conclusion is, life under the sun is vanity. Without God, there's no meaning in life. It's meaningless. And without God, there's no true enjoyment. You will not be able to truly enjoy your time on earth without putting him first, because you're always going to be heartbroken over things. This is true for individuals and also in your marriage, also in your congregations. Life can be joyful. Life under the sun is filled with joyful experiences, joyful memories. And yeah, a lot of bad stuff, dark days are in between or overlapping at times. But God says, know him. Love him. Put your trust in him. And you'll always have that joy abiding with you throughout all this life. Because life could only be joyful with God's guidance. We have to keep our priorities straight in life. And I know it's hard because there's many things. You know, John Turner had posted up in our chat, being under Satan's yoke. Busy, busy, busy. Yeah, you could be so busy that it takes you away from the things of the Lord and from thinking of him first and how you treat each other, how you treat your husband, how you treat your wife, how you treat your brother or your sister, your mother, your father. But it doesn't have to be that way. You could be busy for the Lord, being under the Savior's yoke, which he says is light and easy. He's the easy button. Keep our priorities straight. Because with God's blessing, a real joy, you can enjoy life through all of it. You know, I have to say, Virginia, when she comes up to sing, just, you see the joy. You see the joy in her face when she walks in and you look at her. You hear it in her music. And all of us should have that joy be a feature. When people look at us from the outside world, they should be like, that person's always smiling or always happy. I got a group, I got several different groups of workers at my job. And there's this one team who's a very, very negative team. Everything. I mean, the glass is not only half full, it's a dirty glass. It's bad, right? Everything is bad. And I go and I try and work with them individually and counsel with them. And I was telling the one guy, I was like, yeah, the team's pretty negative. What do you think about that? He goes, yeah, they're really negative. He goes, I'm negative too sometimes. I said, well, you know what? You're never negative with me. How come? He says, well, you're always smiling. I can't. I said, oh, maybe you're onto something. Think about it. You can get up and you can walk past your spouse with that look on your face. I can't even make the face because the joy of the Lord there. Or you could smile and greet them being thankful that you got to see them that morning, because you don't know what life's going to bring. There's so much joy. The joy of being able to come to the feast and have so many like-minded brothers and sisters, all, in the unity of the Spirit, loving one another, caring for one another, helping provide for one another's needs. Yeah, life is meaningless without God. We have to accept our human state as being shaped by God's appointments, if I could say it that way. Accept our human state as being shaped by God's appointments. He teaches us through this feast, as I said in an earlier message, this is one of the first places in the scriptures that he says the word rejoice. Is to come before him and rejoice in everything that you've put your hand to. You save up of it, and you come and you eat and you drink before the Lord, rejoicing before him, because giving him thanks, because he is the one who gave you the power to get those things wherein you can rejoice. And that's a powerful lesson for the Feast of Tabernacles for me, and I hope it is for you guys. So I'm going to say, to go forth. Don't stress about the repetition and the incomprehensible plan unfolding around you. You don't have to know everything. You have to know the one who knows everything. Trust in the sovereign Lord who's behind it all. Seek his wisdom. The gift from Yahweh is that he enables joy amongst all the vanities of life, all the hardships of life, all the things that are interfering with you. Oh, these are keeping me from my walk. Well, straighten out your walk, and those things won't be such interference. Put God first. And then put others before you. Right? The acronym for joy is Jesus, others, you. Put the heavenly things first. Seek you first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. That means be righteous. And all those other things, they'll be added to you. Solomon, arrayed in all his robes, didn't look like one of those beautiful flowers. And that flower doesn't have to spin its wool or its linen on a loom to make it. But God provides for it. And he provides for each one of us, and there's great joy in that. Love each other and be generous with what the Lord has given you, whether it's a lot or a little. And I hope that, that's one of the things we try and exemplify in our local congregation, and that we try and bring here. And we don't come to take from anybody. We come to give because we love you guys. Whether we have a lot or a little to give, we're going to give it. The widow's mite. And we're going to give it with joy. And I want each of you to walk away giving each other that joy. It's going to come from the Lord. You have to acknowledge him first. There is a light in this vanity. It's him, the true joy giver. And if I can take from that song, now that I said that, true joy giver, you are the apple of his eye. Doesn't that bring you joy? Man, it brings me immense joy. Wow. The apple of his eye. You're his special treasure. If that doesn't bring you joy, nothing in this life will. You can chase everything else. It's all vanity of vanities. But the eternal, there's the substance. Your faith, there's the substance. Think on these things and be joyful. That's all I have. Thanks.